Kimberly Crail is a wise woman, herbalist, and educator who came from Wall Street to the weeds. Casey's mission is to teach folks how to heal themselves using whole plants and foods as medicine. You can heal yourself with simple and inexpensive methods, foods, and herbs. And now, here's the host of Weeds of Wisdom, Kimberly Crail.
Hi, welcome to Weeds of Wisdom. Today is February 3rd. It's a Tuesday. It's been cold here in sunny Florida. Oh my gosh, I've had my space heaters out, but it was warm enough today for me to get my 1 hour of sunshine so I can suck up all the vitamin D and get my feet on the ground. I was actually a little hot, so we're coming back and my plants seem to have come through. So I'm very pleased this evening. I have a guest that is someone I consider one of the foremothers of women's spirituality, and a lovely musician, just very talented, multifaceted, and an author. So my guest tonight is Ruth Barrett. And so welcome, Ruth. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, and I would love to know how cold it actually was in Florida, and then we'll compare and contrast. I'm here in Michigan.
Oh, yeah. So it got down to, it was right at the freezing level, about 30, low 30s.
Okay. Well, I did beat you by 10 degrees. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it was 21 this morning.
I think it was single digits in northern Florida.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty devastating for more than one day. So pretty much the whole North Florida, anything growing probably is not growing anymore. So, yeah, it's a tough one, but welcome. So it's so nice to have you on the show. And, you know, we cover a lot of different topics here on Weeds of Wisdom. We're really all about planting food for thought and bringing perspectives from guests that, you know, maybe people haven't really heard much about, or areas of, you know, particularly with respect to nature and healing and women and, you know, all the things that are, you know, dear to my heart. And, you know, I know that music is something that's been, it has been, and it is on a daily basis, something that's very healing and supporting for me. And I know that's a big part of what you do. And so before we really dive into what you do and all of the different things, tell us a little bit about Ruth, you know, like where you're from and how you got, you know, from wherever you're from to where you're at today.
Wow. I will try to do a short version. I was actually born and raised in Southern California in Los Angeles. And on February 4th, and my birthday's tomorrow, actually. And I think of myself, since I was in Los Angeles in the, you know, until I left to move to the Midwest in 2000. I lived in, you know, in Southern California, and the timing of being there in the 1970s and 80s into the 90s, it gave me amazing access to a lot of what was going on in the feminist movement, as well as the feminist spirituality movement. I feel like I was blessed with being in the right place at the right time. And so I met a lot of other women who were involved in those early years. And many are still here, still alive. And I was able to dedicate my life to the local Dianic community in Los Angeles and develop what Z Budapest had entrusted to me when she moved in 1980 to Northern California. So it was a big shoes to fill, and I did the way I needed to do it, and doing music as well as teaching feminist magic and witchcraft and being a folk musician. And becoming involved with what later was, pagan music being recorded, because I was among the handful, along with the collaborator, beautiful musician Cynthia Smith. She and I formed our own record label. This is, 1980. It was long before folks were doing it now. So we could do the music that we wanted to. And so, my goodness, I think that's a good place to start. I just haven't stopped. And it's been an amazing ride. I'm turning 72 tomorrow, and I've been involved in what became the goddess movement, starting in the very early 1970s, actually into the 1960s. So I'm very blessed in that way to have that perspective.
Yes. Well, for me, it was, I stumbled upon When God Was a Woman by Merlin Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really a mind blower, because I was always very interested in archaeology.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I read every book in the library and when I was in grade school in archaeology. And so when I discovered Merlin Stone's work, that really, that's one of those things that flips your perspective. And then you start to ask questions, and you're like, wow, that's really interesting. And then I think I stumbled upon Zsuzsanna Budapest's Holy Book of Women's Mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
And I was even more intrigued, and so, this is sort of how the path isn't a straight line. It's definitely a bit of a spiral, and you just pick up interesting things as you go through your life experience, and then those kind of build, and then and create what the present is, and what the future will be. So
absolutely. I think of, the When God Is a Woman was a book. I consider it, I like to call it a weed, because it was the kind of weed that cracks the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
The one that looks like this little thing, and then it ends up breaking people open. And you just don't know what's going to do that. It's a paradigm shift. And the Holy Book of Women's Mysteries was also one of those. But though, at that time, you don't know that you're making a movement. It's only in retrospect that you go, oh, okay. And there was her, and there was her in this work, and this writing, and where you go, okay, this all contributed to this shift that connected feminist politics and spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a confluence of influences, especially in the 1970s, where there were all these other movements going on. I could name them if you want, but your
right.
listeners probably know, there's so much going on, cultural change, and people responding to the social movements of the day. And so having a spiritual aspect to the feminist movement, which was not taken to right away, it was not automatic whatsoever. That was really an integration that so many of us were starving for, but didn't know that we were.
Right. And I know that at least, I rarely use the term feminist anymore. It seems to have gotten some weird, connotations. Although I love I think the original definition that I used for many years was, feminism is the radical notion that women are people.
Yes.
And that's really all it is. I mean, it's not like, oh my gosh, we hate women and all that other business. And clearly, men have a role in our society. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing it is for women is that we need our own spaces. We need, if we look at how, I also find it so fascinating that this time for millennia was a goddess culture on the earth, but we didn't have writing. So it's considered pre-history. And so therefore it doesn't count.
Sure.
And so, so I find that really fascinating in Constance Tippett's Goddess Timeline,
I
really,
love her timeline.
really,
She's one of my sheroes for doing that. That was that. Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, but we've also seen it, or heard it. I don't know if you know the Pretenders song "Hymn to Her."
Sure.
That's and of course Cyndi Lauper, Sisters of Avalon. That album has quite a few sort of themes. But I think we also have to acknowledge that it's not something that's been acceptable in society. It has been extraordinarily. I think it's threatening.
Oh, yeah,
And
of course it is, and
yeah,
it should be. It should be. I mean,
right,
that's what's right about it. It is.
right,
It's threatening a male-centered concept of everything,
right,
and so of course, it's also the first thing. It was, that's what was so revolutionary about, the archaeological work of Maria Gimbutas, for example, who really did literally, unearth thousands of goddess figurines from, old Europe, and talked about how these goddess-centered cultures were taken over and such. And so, the idea of the creator as a metaphor, especially being understood to be female, that was the first notion of God,
right,
And
right.
so over the evolution of that, of the idea of the creator being male, it comes much, much later. And then, of course, it then ends up being all there is. But it's really is changing in
Yes.
my lifetime. I mean, I'm certainly part of contributing to that, being a weed, and making that happen. But it's I did not expect to see goddess stuff sort of mainstream, become more mainstream. And, I think there's largely positive things about that. In other ways, I'm not so much, but yeah.
Actually, I was noticing on Roseanne, on her podcast, in the background, she had a Venus of Willendorf.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
know Olympia Dukakis. She was
Sure.
in. She had her portrait done in Goddess on Earth. I don't know if you know that it's a book of photographs. Oh,
Ooh.
my friend Lisa Levart actually won a Nautilus Award for that book. It's called
Oh,
Goddess on Earth, and it's women
oh,
embodying a
yeah.
goddess of their choice, and it's divided into maiden, mother, and crone.
Well, that's
And
fascinating. I don't know about that book, and I
oh,
certainly will look at it. But
yes,
Olympia Dukakis also, she did narration for some documentaries that were also done on the goddess.
right. Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah,
So, but they keep it sort of, quiet, and that's fine. And then, the big issue, I guess, of today is, the one that you brought forward in the female Erasure anthology,
yeah,
which had to do mainly with the transgender movement. And, and the funny thing is that, when you talk to people on the sort of conservative side of the spectrum, they have no visibility into what women feminists have been doing since
right,
the 1970s,
right,
when Janice Raymond, I think, wrote The
hmm,
Transsexual Empire. And
correct.
so, so I just always try to remind them that, gosh, feminist women, some of them have lost their minds, obviously, but
Yes,
there's a very large group of women that have been on these barricades
yes,
for decades, literally.
yes. Well,
And
it has to do with what you were shared earlier. Women having our own space, and being based on sex, like the body rather than gender identity. And so that's been the a lot of the split also within feminism has been on that issue. And
mhm,
the trans ideology and transgender industry has really done a great job of influencing um,
yeah,
very good-hearted people to
yeah,
think that it's a civil rights issue and it's this other
yes.
thing.
Yes.
So,
And then once you've gone down that path, then you're invested, and you can't say, oh gosh, I made a mistake, and what did I do to my child? You know?
it's a real hard one. It's really hard. And I think that we're seeing some change in
Yes.
this. And
And I also,
it's okay to make a mistake, just like own it.
yes, indeed. And I also wanted to, as I give praises and blessings and thanks to all the feminist women out there, I also wanted to give praises, blessings, and thanks to the conservative men who finally stood up and put a stop to Drag Queen Story Hour. I mean, the women, honestly, in a lot of these WDI women were hiding. They didn't want to speak out. They were afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's where, we need men supporting women. Right.
Yeah.
And, like when Kelly J. Keene was attacked, it was the men who got her out of danger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need our feminist allies, and there are men who are serving in that, as allies. Yeah.
And so I've actually settled on the term that I really like now. I like womanist. I'm a womanist. And Alice Walker actually talked about democratic womanism. And the reason I like it so much is that woman encompasses man.
Of course.
And
just like goddess encompasses God.
Yeah. Well, yes. And she was, and the other thing people don't know is that all life, human life, begins with XX chromosomes in the womb. So, but all of this information, has been hidden, right? Because it doesn't fit the narrative of the powers that be,
Well, or Eve being a rib of Adam.
Right. Exactly.
The term womanist was actually developed, I believe, I remember starting to hear about it in the 1980s because of Black women who were feeling disenfranchised from the white feminism of the day. And so they actually called themselves womanists instead of feminists. I do call myself a feminist. At this point, I'm considered a radical feminist. Radical feminism has changed what that actually kind of means. Now it means that a woman
know what a woman is.
Know what a woman is instead of anything goes. So that's what third wave did. It's just kind of like you lost your mind, as you said. Just like
you just lost your mind. I mean,
just lost your mind.
Maybe it's the hair dye. I don't know. Purple, blue, green. Hey, I did that too when I was a kid, but I don't know what it is. But the other thing that I've been working on a lot, and I won't digress too much, but I've been working a lot and learning a lot about mind control. And wow, it's not an accident. There are very sophisticated systems designed to get people to think this way, and to get people to think that there are sides,
absolutely,
and all of this nonsense, right? And so once you see it, then it stops working.
I really want to recommend, if your listeners are interested in this topic that you just raised, about how is it that, for example, people vote against their own best interest? How is it that it is literally because of cognitive science, and specifically the work of George Lakoff. I highly recommend his work. There's a few, because I've learned so much from him and his work, as he's a linguist and cognitive scientist. And his work has been about how words are used to frame reality.
Oh,
and the words that you use, that you choose to use, or give a worldview. So if you're having a discussion with somebody, they have a choice. They can either enter your frame using your language, or use their frame. And what happens is that we're also polite. We enter the reality of the person we're talking to, and then all of a sudden they've already quote unquote won the debate because you're in their world already. You're using those words. And so I would recommend a book called The Politics of, I'm looking on my shelf, okay. Where is it? I can't find it. I can't see it. I'm not landing on it right now. Oh, yes, there it is. The Political Mind.
Oh, The Political Mind.
Yeah, Political Mind.
Fascinating.
And I study his work a lot because it influences. I use how language, how it affects how we think. And it absolutely does. It literally affects how we think, and how we think becomes embodied. Literally, it changes our gray matter.
Absolutely does. And to your point, the repetition is a big part of it too.
Yes, it is.
Groove. So just for the listeners' benefit, this is just coming to me. Imagine that for your whole life, you're told that men refers to all people. Oh, just ignore that. That's just, the convention that we use. And you're going, but wait. And then, so I think it's, and the other thing is history is always written from whatever perspective of the historian. And given that historians were all male, they only wrote from the male perspective. It's not like they were out to get women, but they just didn't even think about women, really.
That's
It was like completely their perspective. I don't think there's anything nefarious going on here.
It's called male privilege. And if you don't have it, you don't see it where it's lacking everywhere else.
Right. And, that term has become a bit loaded too, but, it's the way that we treat people differently. And that was, if you have dark skin, you also get treated differently. And when I was living in New York City many years ago, we used to go out, drinking on Tuesdays, and we lived in Brooklyn. So we had to take a cab. And so one of my friends was Black. And so she says, oh, okay. I said, let's try a little experiment. Why don't you go out and try to hail a cab? 3 or 4 empty cabs go by her. Nobody wants to stop. And then she steps back. I step out. Boom. I got like 3 or 4 cabs vying for my business.
Well, exactly.
So
well, that's like
living every single day of your life with those little teeny tiny cuts. Right.
Well, this is what I'm a ritualist. My main work that is my biggest passion really is as a ritualist, and working with the injuries and reframing and finding other words and then enactments to shift our experience of injury to that of health and choice. And that is something that I've done, I've been interested in, and I continue to. It's like my favorite work because it's doable.
Right.
We can change the frame. We can change how we have experienced something from the past and reframe it. And a lot of it has to do with the metaphors we use to talk about what happened to us and decisions that we made around an experience, and make a conscious decision how we really would prefer it to be. Otherwise those old language, if that old language just lingers in our deep mind and runs us,
Right. Yeah. It's like we're running a film, we're running the reruns. And, there was a little book that was very helpful for me called Love is Letting Go of Fear by Gerald Jampolsky. And I love that little, I think it's the mini Course in Miracles, because it's just a little tiny book. It has pictures. There's not all those words. You don't have to go to study groups to figure out what they're trying to say. Right. And he was basically saying that, that we're essentially using our only experience of a thing, which is our past, and we're projecting that into our future. And we don't have to do that. We can film we can have a new movie.
That's
we can make it anything that we want.
Yes.
And once we realize we're powerful that way, that's so freeing. And it's also very healing.
Absolutely. And that's why I love this work, and
Yeah.
I will continue doing it. You know, I'm working on a new project right now.
Well, we're going to take a commercial break here,
Mhm.
and when we come back, I want to hear about your new project,
Sure.
and then I want I mean, you sent me the most beautiful song, and I love dulcimer, harp, and
Mhm.
stringed instruments, so I definitely want to experience some of that when we come
Mhm.
back. So we'll be back
Great.
in just a second.
Mhm.
Thanks, folks.
Unlock the mysteries of the spirit realm with the new book, Meeting Wallace. In this channeled work by renowned psychic medium Larry Costa, the reader will delve into the profound wisdom of his spirit guide, Wallace. Together, they share the transformative journey of harnessing psychic powers from the celestial plane. Discover the extraordinary psychic gifts that have empowered Larry on his path, and immerse yourself in a thought-provoking and awe-inspiring read. Meeting Wallace is a groundbreaking endeavor, and it is a perspective seen through the eyes of a spirit guide. Discover the wisdom of the spirit realm alongside actual photographs of ghosts and spirit guides. Get the book Meeting Wallace by Larry Costa at Amazon.com.
The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to research a haunted house can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unexmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unexmedia.com or amazon.com.
Welcome back to Weeds of Wisdom. My guest tonight is Ruth Barrett, and we've been having a really interesting conversation about feminism, women's spirituality, all kinds of, we're two old bags kind of reminiscing a little bit about history. And anyway, so Ruth is an author. Her website is guardiansofthegrove.org. And I suggest that it's just a wealth of information there. And she has all kinds of workshops and classes. She's published books and is a lovely musician. And so she's going to tell us a little bit about the projects that she has coming up. And hopefully she can treat us to some of her music here.
Thank you. And if folks are interested specifically in the music, they need to go to a different website, but it's dancingtree.org.
Dancingtree.org. Okay.
Tree.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
okay.
.org. Well, the project I'm working on right now, and part of it I think it's great that you called us old bags. I'd rather be called an old hag, however, than an old bag. But because hags are there's a lot of great etymology in the word hag, and it really means a wise old person. And I think haggard is the word hag. It refers also to a bird of prey, like that will not be tamed. And I like that very much because I identify with that. I will not be tamed. So call me an old hag. I will say thank you so much. So my first book on ritual making, women's rites, women's mysteries, intuitive ritual creation. That book really is focused on the nuts and bolts of how to begin to begin. My experience this was a period of decades, really, in noticing that as much as women were interested in ritual making, they didn't know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
Literally didn't know where to begin. And it wasn't okay with me that they didn't know. I mean, that's where I kind of found that calling to do that for my life. And so for personal and group ritual. And so this new project I'm really excited about. I'm co-authoring it with Hestia B. And it's a book, we are calling it the Women's Wheel of the Year. And the subtitle that we're working with right now is Embodied Celebrations of Her Cycles.
Ooh, I love it.
So it is in the ritual making book that I mentioned earlier, there is one chapter on the Wheel of the Year, and it gives suggestions and things that women might consider doing. This project is all it is. It's a book that's going to be about how to make meaning from these holidays that are connected to nature, and also the overlay of the female life cycle on the cycle of the year. And that was something that I learned from one of my first formal teacher, Shakina Mountain Water. She was the first because folks were celebrating, the equinoxes and the solstices and the cross quarter days, but it was the first time that and it was her genius really in really noticing the year as a dancing woman, and that was her, how she understood it. And so I really just began to integrate that concept of how women's bodies, women's life cycle from conception really to grave and beyond are connected and mirror the cycles of nature. And so the book is about not only discussing some of the traditional practices and customs, because I have a folklore background, but also how to make it meaningful today in the 21st century, where most of us are not farmers plowing our fields right now in preparation for spring.
Right. So our perceptions of the seasons and the usefulness of those rituals. And by the way, people get a little scared when it comes to talking about rituals sometime, but if you think about it, there are a lot of things that are ritual because, there's a lot of ritualistic abuse and things like that. So it's important to remember that we all have rituals, your morning ritual, your evening ritual, the fact that you cook, eat, wash dishes, those are rituals. And so when we talk about ritual, and that's a big part of what we teach in the Wise Woman, the 7 medicines, is simple ritual is incredibly healing, right? And so what you're talking about is when you do ritual, you're really embodying the spirit of whatever it is that you're celebrating or whatever it is you're connecting.
The only thing I would say to what you mentioned about the everyday rituals is that for most people, okay, so then what makes a ritual as opposed to a habit?
Okay.
So if I'm, doing my morning ritual, meaning I'm brushing my teeth, I'm washing my face, I would call that a habit. It's a sequence of things I repeat. But if what would make it a ritual is the message I tell myself as I am looking in the mirror in the morning. What am I saying to myself? You are goddess or you're a piece of shit.
Right.
I mean, that the meaning we attach to the enactment is what makes it a ritual.
Oh, I love that. It's like Louise Hay's mirror work, where you look in the mirror and you say, "Oh, I love you. You're beautiful."
There's a choice. There's a choice.
Yes, indeed. How you look at a thing changes it.
It's consciously assigning meaning to something,
or
looking at. I'm always interested in what is the meaning you're assigning to an experience that you may not realize you even did.
Right.
Because we're always making meaning. Is my perspective.
Right.
We make meaning of absolutely everything. So what is the meaning you're making, and is that meaning the meaning you want to make? Because we're going to do it unconsciously.
Right.
We create messages that's what I mean by making meaning.
Right.
We internalize messages based on how various experiences are experienced personally, or what other people say about something that's happened.
Right.
And I think it's really important to begin that healing process is to look at the meaning you gave it and decide if that's what you want to stick with. And if you don't want to stick with it, ritual making is an extraordinarily powerful tool to heal because of the multimodalities that you can create. It's not just thinking about something, it's working with visual and words and sounds and scent and taste, all of those things to create a full sensory experience of change.
Love that. I love that. That's beautiful. And so when we talk about the calendar and the wheel of the year, we're really talking about how the seasons move and the cycles. Is that pretty much correct?
Yes.
And we just crossed a major one. We just had a major one, and that was February 2nd, February 1st in some cultures, but thereabouts. And that's the first holiday, which is called Imbolc or Imbolc, which essentially means in the belly. And so it's sort of, okay, well, even though you look outside and you see all that snow, there's something that's starting to stir underneath there. And there's the Catholics have named Bridget a saint and hold her as a saint. And the interesting thing about the Catholics is that they essentially took all of the old pagan holidays and overlaid their own on top of it. So, for example, Jesus was not born in December, folks.
No.
And so, but they could not get rid of Mary because she was so beloved of the people. And so they made her Mother Mary, and they kept her in the church. And so I appreciate that very much about the Catholics. And they are very into ritual as worship. So I wanted to just give the viewers a little side note on. So Bridget, it's Bridget's holiday. It is
the Feast of Bridget, they call it.
So you want to talk a little bit about that, or where do you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, I could talk. Actually, let's talk a little bit about this holiday because, as you said, it really is the marking of in Northern Europe. In Northern Europe, we're talking about that the 1st of February or February Eve is the start of it's the first day of spring, and it's the foreshadowing of spring because you go out the next day, it's freezing cold, just like at solstice, the rebirth of the sun. Where is it? And so, but it's the 6 weeks later at Imbolc where there are signs of that the light is coming back. And it's that magic, seeing lambs that are being born in the snow, and you see the little, the little white snowdrops coming up, and
crocus.
And exactly. And that's happening now. So it's the reason in the belly, and this idea of quickening. It's the earth is quickening. It's like she's starting to, you don't have this fully formed thing, but you have the signs of life returning. And because you have the signs of life returning, it's a time to think about, what do you want to plant? Like metaphorically or literally, right? I mean, what do I want in this new solar cycle? What do I want there? And so it's a wonderful time to ask questions, like spiritual questions, like, what am I dedicated to? What is important to me? What values do I want to strengthen in myself as I move forward in the new year? It's really a holiday about dedication, purification, and renewal.
Nice. Yes, and you certainly feel it at this time of year. This is when people start to think about the spring cleaning, what we want to get rid of, how we,
Yes.
And yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying that the spring cleaning, originally, this is the time, and the Romans did this too. This was when you did it. So this idea of spring cleaning, it's ancient, and it's about getting ready for the new cycle. So if you're spring cleaning at this time of year, you're all you're doing an ancient custom.
That's great. That's great. Now, Bridget's symbols are, as I recall, she was a smith. Is
She is Bridget, the goddess Bridget, is associated with poetry, smithcraft, healing. Something. The term is usually animal husbandry. She literally is the land. In Ireland, she is the land. She is sovereignty, and there's even an old story where she's asked what her name is, and she says, "I am sovereignty."
Wow.
Yeah, really powerful. So she also is associated with magic. There's so many incredible customs around her honoring and the people. It's just,
well, I was thinking about the King Arthur legends and how the king essentially had to marry the land.
Yes.
And
yes.
that would revive the nature. I mean, nature
Yes.
would respond,
Yes.
but the king had to love the land or the queen.
Exactly. And that is, there's things within this holiday, traditional customs that are almost like ancient reminders of that. He has no power without her blessing.
Right. Wow. It's just gives me the shivers thinking about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So where do you want to go from here? Do you want to play some music? Do you want to
I could play a traditional song for Bridget. It's called Gawam Malta Brige. Brige is how you say Bridget. Brige. And the first little verse is in Gaelic, and then I sing the translation.
Oh, nice.
I'm playing on a table, not how I usually do it, but this is the instrument I'm using tonight.
I'll put your picture up so that people can see what it looks like. How's that sound? That way,
that's a different instrument, but it's just another shape for it. That's totally fine. That's fine. So you won't be able to see my hands, but you'll be able to hear the sound. Gawa molto grigia, ignoni lehera, ignoni golciri, mola mishkoleri. I will sing praise to Bridget, beloved is she in Aaron. Praised is she in all the land. Let us all praise her. Bright torch of Enoch, shining throughout the land. Pride of youth of Aaron, pride of gentle women. Dark the house of winter, cutting with its sharpness, but on the eve of Bridget, spring is near to us. So that's a famous song that you can hear, harp players play. I don't hear you.
Sorry, I muted myself so that
That's okay.
I didn't have any feedback. That was beautiful. I love
Thank
the
you.
harp, and I think I shared with you my lifelong desire to learn to play. So hopefully she'll bring me one. It'd be nice. Maybe just a little table harp, that's fine.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Yeah, I try to make the dulcimer kind of sound a little bit harpy, but
it's nice.
nothing replaces a harp.
Yeah. I'm not sure why you're all blurry now.
Oh, really?
I'm a terrible producer. I don't think you did anything, but when I took myself off, somehow I'm sorry, audience. I'm not the best producer in the world, but yeah, that was beautiful. And
Thank you.
so I really, and the thing is, singing is so transportive. It really takes us out of our everyday linear, do this, into a being place.
Yes, right.
And that being place, I correlated a little bit with the left and the right brains, where we live most of our lives in our left brain, and the music, the creativity, all of that is coming from the other hemisphere of our brains, which is kind of, since we developed writing, has kind of gotten a little bit lost. And we've called it the feminine side of the brain, and all of those things like intuition have been sort of poo-pooed. And I think that we are finally, as a species, recognizing that for whatever reason, women have this really powerful ability to connect with nature. And
It's an ancient understanding. And, many years ago, in the early 80s, I was given a copy of an out of print book that was given to me by my dear friend and mentor, Kay Gardner, who was a pioneer in the field of healing with music. And she was a brilliant musician, composer, but her focus was healing with sound and with music. A lot of her work was taken up by others. She's passed now, but she gave me this book, and this book was written by a woman named Sophie Drinker. I think it was written in 1948, and it was called Women and Music: The Story of Women in Their Relation to Music. And it actually is back in print now. I'm really happy to share that. And one of the things that book really was so important to me, and was that it talked about why women in music. It talked about and her what she wrote was that how women were the first singers of magic, and how ancient women's music was created to do something.
Right.
Not, yes, we can experience the beauty and the sound, but literally that something was this thing called incantation. And incantation means to sing into something. In other words, okay, so we're having the sound with the intention of causing something to happen.
Right.
Okay. And the idea why women in particular has to do with the fact that our ability to give and sustain life, whether you choose to physically be a mother is not the most important thing. You already are that. And so if women have the power, which we know we do, to give and sustain life, then thus we have the power to give life to a thing, to a situation, to a person who's ill, who's intentionally sung into. And so rhythm and sound, our first sound we hear is in our mother's womb. We hear the beating of her heart. I mean, it's so the idea is that if women make sound and rhythm in the right way, then we can bring the dead to life. We can do that. And so women's incantation, according to Sophie Drinker, was the foundation of the modern professions of religion, medicine, and music.
Wow.
I mean, yeah. So I got exposed to this early on, and it rang completely true.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I sing, I'm mindful of that. I've never considered myself a performer. I don't think of myself as that. I'm a musician priestess. And so it is, I don't enjoy the idea of even like performing, because I don't perform. I'm sharing something that is meaningful to me.
Right.
And with the intention that it awakens something that resonates in people, awakens something old, maybe something ancient. Yeah. So women's roles in the world with regard to occasions like for healing, protection, birthing, funerals, rituals of all kinds. This is why women always had taken that lead, because we're built for it.
Yes. Yes. And, the interesting thing for me is that women have always been involved really from the womb, literally to the tomb, in terms of helping women give birth and washing the cooling bodies of the dead.
Yes.
Always been the role of women. And yeah, so I'd like to just take a moment and honor that and acknowledge that.
Yes. And, even you probably are familiar with the idea of keening, for mourning, and this is, we think of it as in the Irish tradition, especially. Women were literally hired to follow the funeral procession and wailing. And the reason, again, why women, I'm always asking that question because there's always an answer. And is because the cries of mourning are similar to the cries of birthing, and it is a way of ensuring the return of the spirit of the person, back into life.
Wow, I did not know that. That's pretty amazing.
Yes, it's pretty amazing, and it makes sense.
Well, there's I don't know if you're familiar with Marie Summerwood, but she. One of her chants, she has a lyric. It says, "Sing the stones back."
Yeah.
Sing the stones back. And we know even the biblical stories, the trumpets of Jericho, moved the
vibration.
And now we're starting to speculate that all of those ancient megaliths were actually put in place using sound. And so it's incredibly powerful sound.
I have heard a little bit about that, and it was just like, oh my goodness, could that really have been done?
Yeah, it's pretty out there. And that's the thing, when we open up, and that's the other thing about opening up our minds to new ideas and not to be stuck in the boundary going around and around in a circle of what we already know, but to open up and to say, wow, that's really interesting idea. Let's go there. And without fear. And there's something very soothing about music.
It depends on the music, but yes. But yes, I love watching the Grammys, and I just I'm saying that because there was some music that I just was not
we're officially
not happy with. Yeah, but
those young kids today, boy, that music, it's not music at all.
I know.
I remember hearing that from my mom.
I know, it's embarrassing. I feel
I like something with the rhythm, and actually, I dislike a lot of the modern classical music as well. Yeah. I just find that to be like, it hurts. I want something that's soothing and uplifting.
Right.
But yes, music can be used for good, and it also can be used to disturb, and to create anxiety.
Absolutely. Like everything else, right?
like everything else.
There's a range. There's a
There's a
range.
Right. So now you also have quite a bit of work that you and Falcon do in terms of training. So because we're getting ready to wrap up our time this show, but what I want to do is I want to give the audience a way, give them a sense of what you really have to offer, because there's so much that you have accumulated, that wisdom that I think it's important that we pass on to the new generation. So talk a little bit about the scope of your work.
Oh my goodness. It's been decades, of learning, continuing to learn. I'm learning all the time. And if something, goes, I think that could be improved, or here's a way I might, do it differently. I'm always thinking like that. I think since the pandemic and everything kind of live things got shut down, it threw me into this really bizarre place, because I'm used to working in groups of women where we're together, like physically.
Yes.
And so I had to it was a confrontation, what can be taught online and what should never be taught online. Right. And so the last bunch of years since 2020 really have been about what can be successfully taught online and what just simply cannot. And so Falcon and I had developed, this, we had a basically it's a magic school called the Spiral Door Women's School of Magic and Ritual Arts. And we did that program. It was a 4-year program. And we did that for a couple of decades or more. And these are in-person experiential, learning skill sets, and everything from interspecies communication to, with trees and with how to work together in ritual, hands-on, understanding how that we have diversity in terms of how humans process information. There's different, we don't all think the same way. So how can I identify how I might communicate better with this person who I'm working in partnership with? It's been an incredible thing. So we took things from our mystery school, and we looked at what we could teach online, and those are things we teach online. And since things began to open up, we started teaching the energetic skills that you can only do in person.
Good. Yeah, because that's the thing I think that's missing today, is we do not have the mystery schools that they had in the ancient world. And one of the and by the way, just as an aside, have you read Barbara Walker's book Amazon? That little tiny book.
Yes,
Amazon?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's one of my favorite books ever.
Yes.
So what a fabulous journey. It must be so different, though. I mean, do you find it different being in Michigan versus California in terms of the energy?
Absolutely. Every region of the country has its own, vibe. There's things my community, I'm still connected to my community in California, in Southern California. But now we have students from all over the world that we wouldn't have had if we were just in one place. And we don't have a lot, like a circle here in Michigan. We have Temple of Diana is our larger organization that we co-founded. And then we have like Temple of Diana's in California, it's in Michigan. And so we've kind of, branched in different places, but we're all connected through a training in common, a magical approach in common, feminist politics in common, so that when we get together, we can actually do stuff together. That's powerful.
Nice. Well, there's I don't know if you know about the Divine Feminine app. Karen McGrandle has put that together, and I'll definitely hook you up with that. But it's a great resource to bring, again, virtual and local in-person events to the attention. And they've got a very large and growing community, so we can talk more about that. But that's a resource. And so, again, it's Guardians of the Grove. I just want to pull up your website and have you just maybe point out,
Sure,
figure out how to do it, because it's always tricky for me. Share screen. Okay. Upcoming classes. There we go. So I don't know if can people see that?
I am not seeing.
I'm not seeing it either.
Anything. But
Oh,
Guardian.
There we go.
I think you're getting.
I'm at the Guardians of the Grove. Your classes.
Oh yeah, that's just what's coming up.
That's what's coming up, right?
That we have. Yeah, if you go to guardiansofthegrove.org, it's got a lot of stuff there. That's an old wonderful picture of Falcon and I, and we're doing a virtual Daughters of Diana gathering. Max Dashu is going to be presenting, who's awesome, and then some
on
women.
The show. She's coming on the show next week, actually.
Excellent. Yeah, I've known Max for a very long time. And we are doing a virtual thing, and she's going to do a wonderful presentation about the bees, the bee priestesses, and
neat.
I thought it would be good for springtime, right? Yeah, so check out the website, and then we have also an in-person Halloween weekend. It's fantastic. It's in Southern California though, but it's Daughters of Diana Gathering, but it's in October, and it's all Halloween stuff. It's fantastic.
That's great. Well, this has been really fun. I'm definitely going to have you back, and I think I think it's important that people understand that we need to ask not why we were taught to fear the witches as opposed to the men that burn them alive.
Exactly. Right.
You've got to really question, when we're fed history, the history is written by the victor, and it's going to be told from their perspective. And so I talk a lot about, most of those women were herbalists and midwives and were a threat to control. And that's, I think, the thing about women. We're hard to control. And I just wish that our men, we could find a way to help our men relax a little bit about that. And
I think
how that happens.
I think that men are going to have to figure that out.
Yeah. I don't know how they operate. And so,
so they need to figure that out and then teach each other, I think.
Yes, indeed. Well, thanks again, Ruth. And I really appreciate all your work. And I'm just going to play the song that you sent me, the recorded song. Oh, wait a minute. We have a comment here. Oh, somebody rated my stream. Oh, my buddy rated the stream. So he's going to be taking bringing some of his listeners over, my friend. So I'm just going to play that song that you sent me as an outro tonight.
Sure. I just set it to music. It's a translation of a traditional prayer to Bridget.
Oh, beautiful. All right. So I'm going to play it now. I hope I'm going to play it now. I'm not hearing it. Well, there it is.
Bridget, red cold water. honeycomb, Bridget, son of womanhood, Bridget, lead me home. You are a branch in blossom, you are a sheltering dome, bright, precious freedom, Bridget, lead me home. Bridget, red gold woman, Bridget, blaze and honeycomb, Bridget, son of womanhood, Bridget, lead me home. You are a branch in blossom, you are a sheltering dome, bright, precious freedom, Bridget, lead me home. Bridget, red gold woman, Bridget, blaze and honeycomb, Bridget, son of womanhood, Bridget, lead me home. You are a branch of blossom, you are a sheltering dome, bright, precious freedom, Bridget, lead me home. Bridget, lead me home. Bridget, lead me
Well, that was the most beautiful thing that I've heard in a very long time.
Thank you. That's my daughter singing with me.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, still brings tears. And for the audience, notice if you did have tears and or goosebumps, that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
May it be in beauty. Thank you again. Good night.
Good night.